So before I sort of go around the room, I just want to recognize the dean, who you all know, who is not only here, but has been a very important part of our success in terms of his support for this program. All of you shared this dean in your law school experience, and we appreciate it in the years that we bring home a trophy, literally, and in the years that we don't, because these are very competitive, selective events. So thank you to Dean Frykberg for all of his support. We're also joined by our own professor, Miriam Billington, an advocacy and a writing professor here at the law school, who serves now as the director of the Traynor Moot Court. And her leadership is what allowed that moot court to continue when it was being abandoned by its previous management, which in turn maintained an opportunity for law students throughout California to continue to have these opportunities. And it also meant that for non-ABA law students who are generally ineligible for the larger moot courts, or many of them, an opportunity to excel and try to allow the larger schools that don't let us into some of these to explain why we often beat them when we are allowed in, as we did 2 weeks ago. So thank you to Professor Billington for her role in the Traynor and for joining us tonight. If President Brown is with us at this point, I would just ask that he say hello.
Hello, David.
Hello, President Brown. So
I don't know how to take to become visual on the screen.
It just adds to the gravitas of your voice.
Okay, got it. Well, that's just as well, because I'm not dressed with a tie this evening, so my insecurity will not be as demonstrable. But again, I thank you, David, for inviting me this evening. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so proud of what you and your teams have done. I can't thank you and Professor Billington and Dean Frykberg enough for guiding and leading our students and giving them this tremendous opportunity. I think in the years to come, as they enter into the profession, they will truly know how valuable this experience is. And of course, to Dahlia, Maayah, and Patricia Snyder, my hats are off to you. You've made our institution so proud. I hate to use all the cliches, but you put us on the map again and demonstrated what our institution is capable of, what our professionals can do, and what our academic standards are all about. And for any institution, it's competitions like this that truly demonstrate what the institution is all about, what its products are all about, and what its faculty is all about. And to that end, we could not be more proud. I'm going to be having individual sessions with Dahlia and Patricia. We're going to have a conversation with them in the hopefully next couple of weeks after their finals over, so I can personally extend my appreciation to them. But I just want everyone to know, and I want to thank you again, David, for your leadership. I don't know how many years this has now been where you've provided this leadership and just done such an exemplary job of lending to the reputation of UWLA. So thanks again, and thanks for having me this evening.
I just want to say, because I think President Brown, like the dean, may have to I know they have other obligations this evening, and this was a late planned meeting, that just as I mentioned in regard to the dean, these opportunities only are presented because the law school has supported them. And that's decisions made by President Brown and Dean Frykberg. And I believe that this sort of training and platform is essential in the law school process. And I think it's, there's no such thing as even more essential, but it's even more essential for students at non-ABA institutions who frankly need to demonstrate their competitiveness, their ability vis-a-vis a large landscape of large traditional law schools. Why some of our counterparts either don't take it sufficiently seriously, or in some cases don't participate at all, is beyond me, because this is the only scenario in law school in which a student is able to compare their readiness and their ability, their advocacy ability, their written and oral communication skills with what other law students are doing. And if either in the trial advocacy context, which I believe we are growing at the law school, as well as in this appellate advocacy forum, the fact that we can come away as we did last week and as we did with everybody in this meeting and say, this is what is possible there. This is what these students are doing there. That's because the school has allowed us to do it and has encouraged it. So,
David, if I could just respond to that, real quickly, I couldn't agree with you more. We've gone, from so many years now, but as you know, I have the highest support for this program. I think that this is the program that puts UWLA on the map. And I think, I don't know how many people are out there listening who don't know as much about the program, but one of the things that I think you really ought to emphasize is the fact that as the competitors are going through the competition, the judges don't really know what schools the competitors are from. And I think that speaks volumes to the fact that, when you compare, some of the UCLAs of the world with their reputations vis-a-vis, any other school, when it comes down to just pure competition from a pure meritorious standpoint of view, schools like ours with leadership like yours can just slay those Goliaths all day long, because you bring that type of attitude. There's a chip on the shoulder that says, hey, we're going to do it. And the judges don't know any better from what I've been told and what I understand is that they don't know what schools the contestants come from, until after the actual competition is over. And I think that just, speaks volumes to the magnitude of this accomplishment. And I'm just so proud of it.
So as President Brown points out, these are purely anonymous competitions, the writing portion and the oral portion. Teams are identified only by number rather than by name. And in that regard, we are often competing in a situation in which, in an honors style event, neither of our participating students typically would have been admitted as students to the other institution, just based on their admissions determination. We're not only in the room with them, right, and regularly defeating them, but in many cases, and I think in some cases tonight, our participating students were admitted to UWLA, not under our standard admissions procedure, but under our extended circumstances procedure for applicants who do not qualify traditionally, right? What we call the performance admission process. So the fact that someone can start and has at UWLA as a performance admitted student and eventually rise to that level while in law school, I think again speaks to the fact that we are able and need to identify those people that belong in this institution and will succeed.
David, just one last comment to that end. That really is the beauty of UWLA. Go right to the heart of our mission is being able to identify people, give them that support, give them that platform, that opportunity. Hopefully they will swim with it, some perhaps not, but that's the whole mission of UWLA, is to provide that opportunity. It's a very difficult mission, but I just want you to know what you do again, and the selection process overall is at the heart of the UWLA mission.
So thank you again, and we will, unless anybody else has any other preliminaries, I would like to, yes, Dean.
Just one quick one, and unfortunately I'll have to jump off since we're in the middle of our site visit from our programmatic accreditor. But I definitely wanted to stop in and say hello. It's rare I get to see our students after they leave, so it's a wonderful experience. I'll definitely be watching this again later, so please go into great detail. I find it fascinating, but I think it's a part of this process that I think is unique. Again, is each student is unique. Each team is unique, and it's excellent that it's a great affirmation of each student's capacity, work ethic, resilience, And when we're on a level playing field, it shows what can happen if you believe in yourself and you have people that believe in you. Again, whether you win or not in a competition, that can happen to chance, as we see with any sporting event. But the fact that you're there, you are going toe to toe to some of the quote unquote best and brightest institutions. And again, they have professors like Glassman and Billington, but I doubt they have professors that care more than Glassman and Billington. And it reminds me of an old expression I like, that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I think each of you can go into great detail about how much, Professor Glassman Billington cares, the hours on the phone in meetings and going through the detail. Again, nothing is given to you, right? It's earned by you, as you well know, getting into law school, going through law school, getting into the moot court team, competing, it's earned, but having someone in your corner that believes in you, I think is what makes one of the big distinctions. And I think that's why Professor Glassman's teams will do well year after year after year, because of his belief in them. So I just want to make sure that got across, and I'll have to jump off now, unfortunately, so I can go back to our programmatic accreditors. It's good seeing everybody
Just
again.
one last add to what the dean said, and that is, I think it's probably true of everybody in this group, right? Everyone that had that experience, that again, unlike the typical moot court competitor and full-time law student, my recollection is virtually everybody involved was working full-time, more than full-time, or close to full-time while they were going to law school. And I may be mistaken, but I don't think so. It's rare that we have a full-time student who is part of the competitive teams. That's just how it happens. And obviously most of our general population of students are working adults, but when you combine all those features, the smaller school, the more challenging profile of entering law school, et cetera, you're hardly starting out these events on third base. And so that's why I think there really is reason to look at every single one of you, and plenty of people that aren't here who over the years have made this event what it is. So with that, thank you again to the dean, and I'd like to then just talk a little bit about what happened a couple of weeks ago to talk about our current students, and take the rest of you down memory lane for what might be some post-traumatic stress for some of you remembering the moot court process. But these two students, right, Ms. Maayah and Ms. Snyder, participated in the Traynor Moot Court. Not only, I'll cut to the chase because you know how the moot court works in terms of the competition process against our law school. Not only did they win, but we were faced with a situation with about a month to go prior to the competition where Ms. Snyder needed a partner. Her prior partner could not continue as a member of the competitive team, right? We have an unfinished brief, et cetera, et cetera. So we got approval, we replaced that person, and under those circumstances, the fact that they won, right, tells you how effectively two individuals gel to compete against students who have been working together as a pair for months. So with that, I'd like to just start, and if I could, and if she's with us, start with Ms. Maayah, who came in the 7th inning stretch there and entered the ball game. And Ms. Maayah, can you talk to a group of people who, again, walked the same path that you did, maybe a year ago or 5 years ago or more, about what the process was like for you?
I don't see Ms. Maayah's name as a panelist anymore.
Okay, so with that, let me see if Ms. Snyder is on.
Professor?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Ms. Maayah is here as a participant, and I think she just needs to be like switched over into.
So I think I've switched her. This is a wonderful feature I have that I'd like to use outside the law school and more at home, which is to be able to mute people. But at any rate, I've unmuted her.
Thank you so much, Professor Glassman. I don't have the option of turning on my video for some reason. I don't have a video button anywhere on my screen, but
well, we're happy to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Well, it was such a great experience. And as you mentioned, I did jump in the middle of everything, but because of your support, because of all the sessions, We did so many practice sessions, and I do work full time, so I missed quite a few. But all those practice sessions and the challenging question that we would get from the professor, I felt like I always had to know more. And after each session we had, I would go and do more legal research, read more cases, find more supporting case law. And I think I'm not sure how other school actually prepared for the competition, but I think having those sessions twice a day, morning and night, and getting all these challenging questions from the professor, and personally, I think that's one of the reason why we made it that far and why we won the competition. It was such a great experience. Under the circumstances that we did it virtually, it was amazing. I hoped that it was to actually do it in person. I think it would just take it to a whole another level. But under the circumstances, it was just an amazing experience. And I really, truly encourage everyone to participate. I think it was one of the most amazing experience I had so far in law school. And I'm almost done. I'm almost graduating. And I think I will just always remember it, and it gave me self-empowerment. I actually did join UWLA as a performance student. I was part of the performance program. I couldn't afford going to an ABA school, and I couldn't. And it's funny because a lot of people would tell me, family and friends, if you're joining as a performance program, maybe this is not for you. Maybe you don't qualify to be in law school. And just make it that far and actually won the competition. It made me truly believe in what I can achieve. And I am forever thankful for that.
Can I ask you, not to put you on the spot, but given the experience that you've described, when you were, well, two parts. First of all, you probably have some interesting stories about practice sessions that are either held when you're trying to deal with childcare when we met in the evening. At least I heard some of that in the background.
Yeah.
Or work challenges when we met during the workday. So maybe if you would touch on that, and then also, I wonder whether, again, given the what you've described as how you came to law school and what others expected, and maybe what your expectations were of yourself, I'd have to go back and look, but I imagine that every law school you competed against was a large ABA law school. Did you find yourself, it's one thing for me to tell people in advance what it'll be like, as we all know from this group, it's another when you're actually in there, right? And did you find that there's a point where you realize, maybe for the first time, I'm doing this, like I'm competing, and I'm ahead? Can you talk a little bit about whether either of those were sort of something you experienced?
Of course. Going back to your first point, I do work more than full time. I do 45 hours a week. I have a 9-month-old baby, which probably everybody in the school heard that baby crying at one point. But it was a little bit of struggle to find the time for those sessions. But what I'm grateful for, that we had so many. And I know if for whatever reason, whether it was a meeting or a hearing that I had to attend at work, for whatever reason, if I missed one session, I know there was many others to make up for that one missing session, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Personally, I tried to make it for each and every one, but keeping that in mind, that even if I missed one, there are many other opportunities for me to practice and bring my argument in front of other students and in front of the professor. That by itself gave me it was just a relief, knowing that there are so many options, and that all these practice sessions will definitely get me far in the competition. I didn't think it was getting me all the way to win the competition. But yeah, being a part of the performance program, starting off school as part of the performance program, at a point, no matter how much you believe in yourself and you have confidence, I get certain time where I doubt myself. I'm like, oh, all those people did not get in the performance program, and they were admitted regularly. And here I am trying to, compete against other students who either from ABA's regular schools and top-notch schools. We're talking about Berkeley, UC Davis, and just whenever we were preparing for the competition, I was like, I truly thought, I'm like, oh, I am actually doing this. I'm going somewhere with this, and I know it will end well. So yeah,
it started well, the middle was good, and it ended well, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
That's why we'll see that trophy when we reopen the doors. So can I thank you for that, Ms. Maayah? Can I ask your partner, Ms. Snyder, who really had to hold it together, right, as we look to see whether, well, can we find someone who is able to pick up the baton here and run this race with us? So Ms. Snyder was a terrific teammate and organizer this year, so that got done. Ms. Snyder was the individual high scoring student of the 25 or 26 competing law students in this year's statewide competition. So Ms. Snyder, can you reflect a little bit on what the experience was like for you, and be as wide ranging as you'd like in terms of, I know you're also working, I know you also have childcare obligations with children. So your thoughts, please.
Well, for me, this was the most fun thing that I had going on. So it was, in a sense, easy to focus on it, because there wasn't anything else I was working on that was as exciting. And I did not go into it worried about winning so much. I was really more focused on learning and experiencing it, if that makes sense, because I did it in the fall, and I really, really, really wanted to win in the fall. And I think that tripped me up, and it prevented me from just settling in and enjoying it and learning as much as I could. So this time I just—
And you're referring to the National Criminal Procedure Moot Court.
Yeah. Like, I was so focused on like wanting to be the best and winning that competition that I think it was a stumbling block for me.
But in that competition, correct me if I'm wrong, you and your partner did advance.
We did.
We did. You made it further than most of the law schools there. Usually there are over 30 law schools there. I don't remember the total this year. And very few of them, if any others, are non-ABA law schools. They come from around the country. I think there are approximately 40 schools typically. So to make it to that round of 16, again, means that most schools are getting on an airplane and going home after the preliminaries.
Yes. So, well, thank you for clarifying that. Yes. But this time, like I said, I really just wanted to learn as much as possible and really enjoy it, because I had kind of figured out what some of my weaknesses were from doing it in the fall. And so I wanted to focus on like strengthening those areas. And I agree with what Dahlia said about having all of the practice sessions. It really gave an opportunity to kind of fall down and make mistakes, and then try again the next time and do more research in between, and really kind of like live and breathe the experience while it was happening. Which
now, I know that
exciting.
you're from a family of lawyers, and you have worked in the legal field, and you prior to coming to law school, and you are while in law school. To what extent have you found that your involvement here has affected, influenced your objectives, your plans? You know, how does it compare with what your expectations were of what you would be doing in law school and what you'll be doing when you get out of law school?
Well, I wanted to go to law school because I wanted to be able to join my family's business. I had been on an administrative position for a really long time, and then I thought, I want an opportunity for growth. So that was my intention when I applied to law school. But I have really fallen in love with appellate law through this moot court program. And so now I'm starting to explore ways that I can pursue that as opposed to what my family is doing, but also I'm realizing that the two are not mutually exclusive. Like, so I can still stay involved in my family's business, but also I can have this goal. It's really given me, I've really started to see that this career path that I am starting on, there are long-term goals that I will, like, I'm not going to hit a wall. I'm not going to pass the bar and then start being a lawyer and then like that's it for me. Like, there are goals that I continue to reach for, which makes it really exciting. Like, that's a really exciting thing to think about, like always having something new to look forward to and more and more opportunities for growth. So it has given me that for sure.
And what I'd like to do before I sort of go around the room and I'd like to visit with our alumni, I'd like to ask Professor Billington for her thoughts now as a faculty member for a number of years at UWLA and elsewhere, but while in law school as a moot court competitor herself on national moot court teams. So Professor Billington decided to, or agreed to run the Traynor Moot Court. And Professor Billington, from your perspective, particularly at this institution, what are the benefits that you see?
Well, since there are people watching who might not know what moot court is, it was always my goal at UWLA, because I teach legal research and writing, which is the first year of the writing courses, to start talking about moot court then in that summer when you're a 1L and learning how to write citations. That's when I start talking about moot court, because it is such a valuable experience, especially when you're in an alternative style law school like we are. I went to one too. I went to an online non-ABA law school. We didn't have law review at my school. So moot court, competing in moot court was a way for students to show their excellence, and just being chosen to compete, let alone win, which is what so many UWLA competitors do. But just being chosen is an automatic like resume booster. It means that you are an excellent student in writing and in your oral skills. And what moot court is a competition that combines writing of an appellate brief, which is what you will learn to do in Professor Glassman's class, Appellate Advocacy. And then the bulk of the in-person competition is the oral argument, which you will also be doing in that class. And someone sent me a message on the Zoom asking, well, how do you get chosen? And from legal research and writing, I tell my students, pay attention in this class, work hard in advanced legal writing, and really dial into Professor Glassman's appellate advocacy class, because it is there that the really excellent students show their interest in moot court, and Professor Glassman will choose his competitors from that course. And so it is a great honor to be chosen, a great resume builder, and then a wonderful experience. You leave the experience of having competed in moot court feeling like a lawyer. Like, I just did what an actual lawyer does. You know, it's not just writing an essay about some hypothetical and, you know, hoping that I get a C. It's not student land. It's like real life. You are wearing a suit and you are using everything you studied and everything you worked on to show that you know the law, you can apply the law, you can advocate for a side, and actual judges are taking you seriously and evaluating everything you've been working on all throughout law school. So it is a wonderful culmination of everything you have been working on and everything you've been dreaming about as far as becoming a lawyer. So even though it is a lot of work, which is always what makes people nervous, Just like when I was chosen to do moot court and I was like, oh my gosh, it sounds like so much work. How can I do that on top of my studies? And I asked people like the people in this room, people who had done moot court before, and they all said, Miriam, you have to do it. It's the most amazing thing to go through a moot court competition and come out the other side. I never had a winner's trophy like some of you, but it is the #1 best thing I did in law school. So I hope that the people watching who are thinking about it are going to really think about it even more and shoot us questions anytime. I'll put my email address in the chat if anyone wants to write to me.
Thank you for that. But I also think, and I know Professor Billington agrees with me, what we're talking about, all the skills training that we're discussing and that we emphasize, yes, what has happened in the moot court competition context hopefully is an illustration, obviously, of what's possible. But we're involved in the law school to train everyone in our class, with our classes, with these skills. And some will compete and some won't. And some who won't, plenty who won't, hopefully all who won't, will go on to their own distinguished careers and they'll have the same training. So although we're very happy to see our alumni of this program, this is an aspect for both of us of the law school instruction process that applies to every student. But if I could, what I'd like to do now is just try to go around, again, thanking all of you who were part of this over the years and have joined tonight. And let me sort of test my own memory a little bit. So if I can, since I haven't been able to do it for a while with many of you, to start calling on people. So for example, I'm just going to go around in the boxes, right? That's one simple way for me to visualize it. I see Mr. Portillo is here, Edgar Portillo, an alumnus, I believe a 2021 bar admittee. So congratulations for the more recent vintage. We have some older lawyers in here. Mr. Portillo, if I'm correct, you participated in the moot court that we run every year, judged by the California Court of Appeal, where 3 appellate judges review work of 2 students. And you did extremely well there. And from there, you competed with your partner, Natalie Hairabedian, who was also here. And the 2 of you, well, you can tell us about your experience at the National Criminal Procedure Moot Court, but we also had some hardware there when you competed a couple of years ago. So if you would, can you briefly discuss your moot court experience, and then we'll hear from your partner. And also, I know you haven't been out there long post law school, but how that is impacting or influencing your career as you're getting started as a lawyer.
Okay. First and foremost, hello, everybody. Secondly, congratulations, Ms. Snyder and Ms. Maayah. Awesome job. Should be proud of yourself. You guys earned it. And so about my experience, it was amazing. I learned a lot, whether it's fine-tuning my writing skills. I worked before and during law school, and mostly trial work, never appellate work. I had no clue what appellate work really entailed. And my first exposure to that was Professor Glassman's summer course. And I liked it. I loved it because it's a combination of some policy arguments and research and working on your persuasive skills, which are essential to being an advocate as an attorney. And so one of my most memorable moments throughout the course of my last year in school, where I participated alongside Ms. Hairabedian in the moot court competitions, was actually our first, the national competition in San Diego. And I recall, correct me later if I'm wrong, Natalie, we both weren't really focusing on winning, but rather putting forth our best effort and just letting the system play out, the judging and so on and so forth. We made it to the quarterfinals on the oral argument side. So we made it to the Saturday evening arguments, did not proceed to the semifinal. But we came back, I do recall coming back on Sunday afternoon after the final round was heard, just to see if by mere chance we happened to earn an award for our brief. And to our surprise, we did. And I do recall the specific moment when UWLA was called for winning or earning best petitioner's brief, people around were trying to figure out what the acronym stood for. And in fact, the winning team came up to us and asked us where the school is located and what school we attended. And they were impressed and they said, congratulations. So it was awesome. People from, I spoke with students from, Boston College. The winning team was from Florida, among other schools. And so it was nice to bring some recognition to our school. And I learned a ton, especially under the direction of Professor Glassman. I really learned how intertwined advocacy at the trial level, how that affects the appellate process and grounds for appellability for appeal at the second level. So that was awesome. And I just can't say enough and stress enough how influential those practices were with Professor Glassman, providing constructive criticism, which was valuable to me, being able to work on my ability to persuade and captivate the listener in both oral arguments and writing. And so I think it's a priceless experience. I highly recommend it for anyone that is considering putting forth the effort to hopefully get selected for a team. It's worth it. So as everyone else can attest, it's a lot of work, but it's worth it. And as far as what am I doing now with my young career, I am currently a job applicant in the interview process for public sector employment here in Los Angeles. And the moot court experience has definitely made me consider now one day pursuing appellate work.
Thank you for sharing that. Mr. Portillo was kind enough after passing the bar when we arranged the swearing in. He did provide me with this very exquisite tie that I've been wearing lately in my court appearances. And because it is the pandemic, I haven't removed the tag yet, but it is, no one can see it. All right, so as I mentioned, Mr. Portillo competed with Ms. Hairabedian, who is also with us. And before, I want to turn it over for one second, but I do want to mention that based on my technical shortcomings, we couldn't see Ms. Maayah before. So Ms. Maayah, can I just ask you to come back briefly so that the group can properly recognize you?
Thank you, Professor. I wasn't given permission as a panelist, but I wasn't able to see anyone either. So it's really good to see all of you. Thank you.
So thank you. So Ms. Hairabedian.
Hi, everyone. Before I speak about my experience, I just want to congratulate Patricia and Dahlia for your remarkable achievement. If anyone knows how much work you guys put into it, it's us on the screen. So good job. It's amazing. My moot court experience has by far been the most remarkable yet challenging experiences that I have experienced both in law school and in my career, I guess. At the time, I had been working 10 years and I was a full-time employee at the time that I took part in the competition. So it was challenging. I know I went through a lot of panic, a lot of stress. I'm probably one of those people that have PTSD right now, but in a good way. Starting from just the briefing, we only had a month to write. And I remember just putting my life on pause. I didn't go to any social functions. I just knew that, there's a bunch of other schools competing and they're most likely putting in every minute that they possibly can. So I put in all my time and energy into it. I loved it. And once the brief was done, I remember sending it to Professor Glassman after it was submitted. And we sat and I was like, so, what do you think of it? And he's like, it's good. You guys are paddling. And I remember being so nervous. Like I called Edgar. I was like, what does that mean? We're paddling. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? But I'm glad he did say that because first of all, he had nothing to compare it to. We hadn't seen any other briefs. So, and then second, he didn't boost up our confidence too much because we still had the oral advocacy, the argument portion to attack. And that portion was so scary for me. Every time we had 2-3 meetings, I think, a week. And each time, I think, like Dahlia said, we would get a question that we felt like, we didn't know so well, and that we had to kind of, formulate a response as best we could as we were on the spot. But as much as I knew the law and the cases that I had researched, I felt like I was constantly just searching more, just anticipating future questions that might come up. And, I was extremely stressed before each of it. And I think that has translated into my work now as an attorney. Anytime I have any hearings or anything before a judge, I just feel like it's just taught me to cover all bases and just do all the research that I can and anticipate any arguments or questions that can come my way. And I think that it was just such a great experience. My first encounter with the judge felt very natural, because I feel like the moot court experience really just prepared me for that. And for potential students and current students, you guys have an amazing asset here at your disposal. So take advantage, gain all the knowledge that you can from Professor Glassman, because it's really worth it.
Thank you. You are both recent admittees to the bar. And again, congratulations to both of you for that.
Thank you.
Achievement. How did you find, not necessarily moot court specifically, but in what ways did the more intensive study you needed to do for these events, do you think helped prepare you for preparation and successful completion of the bar?
I think that the moot court experience in general allowed me to just be dedicated and commit the time and effort that I know is needed to, excel and do well. I learned how to just quiet the noise around me and remain focused, and just, it taught me that hard work will pay off. So just as Edgar and I put all our time and effort and energy into competing and essentially, winning at least the brief portion of the competitions, both of them, same would translate with the studies and, taking the bar exam. So I think that I had the confidence, the courage, and I just knew that if I put my all into it, I would succeed. And thankfully I did.
And just remind me, you and Mr. Portillo, you competed he may have said so, but you competed at the National Criminal Procedure Moot Court. And there you advanced again to what I call the playoff rounds. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. And we took home the Best Petitioner Brief award there. And we both got to compete at the Traynor Moot Court as well.
Yes.
And unfortunately, due to COVID, we weren't able to argue that. And I guess Zoom wasn't a thing at the time, so they weren't prepared for it. But we did get Best Respondents Brief for that competition. So that felt good.
So, and yes, that was very good. So, as you mentioned, in 2020, due to the pandemic, the Traynor, which had been run for approximately 50 years, was suspended. But it was held, among other years, in 2017. It was hosted by McGeorge School of Law in Sacramento, which is a large traditional ABA law school. And the judges, as I recall, in the final round, it included Justice Ming Chin, who was at that time on the California Supreme Court. So he joined other distinguished judges. And the McGeorge team, the home team, fortunately for them, made the final. But unfortunately for them, they made the final pitted against the University of West LA, which was a team of Knarik Boyadzhyan and Stephanie Trice. And that winning team is also here tonight. So I see Ms. Boyadzhyan. Can I say hello, please, and ask Ms. Boyadzhyan, you've been listening to this conversation. I'm sure it's brought you and Ms. Trice back to your moot court experience. Can you share with us some of your perspective on things now that you're going on 4 years removed from that event?
Yes, definitely. Hi, everyone. Congratulations on this year's winners. It's a great accomplishment. And every year when the time comes by around April, Stephanie and I always text each other. We always remember moot court competition. It was just an awesome experience. As many of you already said, the sessions with Professor Glassman really prepared us. We met almost a couple times a week and we were fully prepared for everything. And although we had put in a lot of work and we were prepared for everything. Both Stephanie and I, we kind of doubted ourselves. We both only packed, I remember we both only packed one suit because we knew that we weren't gonna go to the final round. And then when we did, we both panicked and went to the mall to buy another suit because we were gonna compete on the final round. And it was just so amazing. My kids were there and they were so excited and happy. And I think that I will never forget this experience, no matter where I go or what I do. It has really impacted me because before I doubted myself. I thought that, oh, I didn't graduate from or I don't go to an ABA accredited school. So how am I going to compete with people who graduated from UCLA, Loyola, UC Berkeley? And this experience has shown me that I can compete with them. I can be, when you're well prepared and when you're determined, then you can succeed. And this whole experience proved that.
And if I recall correctly, both of you were working at the time as law students, correct?
Yes.
Well, thank you for that. And your partner is here as well. So I'd like to welcome Ms. Trice, Stephanie Trice, part of that team as well, now two attorneys in practice here in California. Ms. Trice, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
And what do you think? What's this trip down memory lane mean?
Oh, it brings back so many memories. I mean, I have to, first of all, thank you. Basically, Professor Glassman brought me into moot court kicking and screaming, and I had no interest in doing it. I hate public speaking, but he said, you know, I think you can do this, you should do this, and it would definitely work on my confidence. And he was absolutely right. In addition to competing with Knarik in 2017, I also did the National Criminal Moot Court competition in San Diego. And in that one, I came in 7th place. And it was an exhausting experience. It was so much work. And then
I have to point out that's 7th out of probably what, approximately 40 individuals or 45.
Yeah.
Right? And that's around the country.
Yeah, and then to do it again with it being my last semester of law school, starting early bar prep, I had a new partner in Knarik and, you know, all of the research and writing, but it was so worth it. I mean, we really clicked and connected, and we were able to work as a team. That's something that was really important with respect to going through this, is definitely the teamwork. I pretty much studied mostly by myself in law school. I didn't have a lot of study groups. So for me to have the opportunity to work in a team environment was really important for me to work on my skills and not be too domineering and to not want to just take over everything. But I had an amazing partner and it was so worth it. And we had one challenge that we had was we expected Professor Glassman to be with us at the competition, and he was not there. And so, you know, the two of us were just so nervous. McGeorge, they basically had their own research assistant. Their team literally had a research assistant. So we were like, you know, what are we going to do up against these guys that have their own assistants and are, you know, they have this whole team surrounding them. And you know, when I will never forget Justice Chen, you know, pointing to us and saying the winners are the women. And it was just such an amazing experience. And now I'm an intellectual property attorney. I've been doing that for a long time. My work is usually in front of the USPTO. Everything is on paper, but I also do some litigation. And in federal court, we don't go to court very often. Most of our judges rule on the papers. And so the research skills that I continue to work on and develop, I'm still working on and developing. Every time I see someone write in a motion, plaintiff argues, I think of Professor Glassman saying, no, plaintiff doesn't argue. You're just going ahead and saying what you need to say. You're being an advocate. Get rid of those extra words. And so I still hear his voice in my head to this day when I'm drafting motions. And in all this time, I have not had to make an appearance because the judges have just been ruling on the merits, and we've had lots of wins, and you know, the streak will continue.
Thank you. And again, seeing you both makes 2017 feel much more recent than it probably does some days. So that was a very sweet. I had an illness in the family, which is why I couldn't attend. And initially I thought that was probably a good luck charm, my absence. But fortunately, we did win it this year. And but I still wasn't there. It was virtual. So I don't know. Anyway, thank you again, Ms. Trice. So Masha, I see Masha on, and I'm looking to see if her partner Chris is there from there.
He had to go because he got a work call, so he let me know. So
Mr.
I'm on my own.
is an attorney with a film studio to show you the varied careers that our folks proceed to after. But can you please, on behalf of your team, tell us, share with us your perspective on this?
So Mr. Davis and I both, and I'm going to talk for him too, because we're close and we knew each other. So we both worked full time. He works for a very demanding industry. So do I. So we both work full time, 40 to 50 hours a week. I actually, on my last semester, when I was doing the moot court competition, I was driving from South Bay to the Chatsworth campus, and I was taking 4 classes. So my schedule was full. His schedule was full. We had our family obligations, and we did it. For me personally, it was the best experience ever, because prior to law school, I had zero, interaction with law and legal work. The company I work for and what I did for them had nothing to do with legal stuff. It does now, but this was the first time where I was able to, be with everybody else and be able to argue and be in front of, judges and being in a competition and feel like, okay, I'm actually doing some work, which was great for me. And it kind of, I got over my fears. It was very overwhelming. It was intimidating. I remember I've looked up the competition prior to saying yes. And I'm looking, the schools are like Georgetown, USC. And I remember I've called Professor Glassman. I was like, there is no way I'm doing this. And, he pushed me, Chris pushed me, and I did it. And it was the best thing I ever did. And I am so grateful and thankful for that. I transferred from another school to this school. So to have this opportunity and being able to do that, it meant even so much more to me. It's a lot of work. I remember when I was doing my own brief for his class prior to being picked, it was during summer. I remember I spent my entire 4th of July trying to research cases. And at some point there may be things being thrown and tears coming out. But if I had to do it all over again, absolutely, I would do it. And this whole experience made me develop some sort of, I have a passion to actually do affiliate work, which I'm planning to do on a side, because the company I work for, I'm an in-house counsel for them. So I do contracts, construction law, things like that. So I'm going to spend some of my time doing some of that work on the side and just hopefully being able to give something back.
Even though the work that you're doing in practice is not necessarily directly related, do you find that your experience and those events created in you, just psychologically, some additional confidence or perspective that you could handle these situations?
Absolutely. I've absolutely. And I recently had a hearing I had to do for a criminal case that I did special appearance, and I felt so comfortable. And I was thinking when I was leaving, I was like, I would have never felt like that if I didn't go through this experience, because going through that, doing the competition, there's attorneys that are, judging you who are from really top schools. Some of them are 30, 40 years experienced lawyers that are, amazing. So having to be in front of them and being able to present yourself and being able to compete, like I said, with people who went to Loyola, USC, Georgetown, it gives you a very good confidence. And it also, once you pass the bar and going to practice, it really shows you that there is really no difference from where you came from. We all pass the same bar, and having to read cases and write the briefs had extremely helped me in my writing. I learned how to write like a lawyer, and that's how I wrote for the bar, which I believe was the key factor of me passing the bar, because my first time around, I wrote like a law student. Second time, I was like, I'm gonna write how I wrote for my brief, and it worked. So it was definitely a great experience, and it did a lot for me. So I would like to add that even if the students are not going to be picked for the competition, because there's only going to be 2 students, please take the time to write these briefs and read these cases and search them and read them, because they're fascinating. I remember Professor Glassman had me look up a case. It was about a search for in a hospital. And up to this date, I'm still trying to see if any other case has come up with that type of, ruling. It will really help you guys out. So I hope that you will put the time and really take the time to put the time and effort in your brief when you're submitting it for his class.
The issue in that case was whether you need a warrant for police to enter a hospital room. And
Yeah.
I believe that was the case of Peter Prescott, who we've seen in many other misadventures over the years. So thank you.
Right.
Thank you. And thanks for representing your team tonight. Michael Ocampo is with us. Mr. Ocampo has been in practice, I think, about 6 years. So his moot court experience goes back a little further, if my memory is right. Is that right, Mr. Ocampo? And good to see you.
That's right. Thank you, Professor. Yeah, actually, I graduated in 2015, so going on 6 years now. Thank you for the reminder.
What has this conversation indicated to you in terms of how does your experience compare?
Well, first of all, I just want to say to Ms. Snyder, Ms. Maayah, I first got word of your accomplishments through email and through Professor Glassman. Amazing job. I think that it just goes to show and reinforces the fact that it doesn't matter what school you go to, we can hang with anybody out there. So it gave me chills to know that you both were able to perform at such a high level. So congratulations on that. You're making everybody proud, especially those of us who understand the road that it took to get there. Professor Glassman touched upon it earlier, that most, if not all of us, were dealing with other things in life, working full-time, dealing with families, having to raise children. At the time I was doing moot court, I was only responsible for my dog. So I can't imagine what it's like to raise a human being at that point. But for me, when I look at the big picture, now that I'm in practice, for me, the road that was paved for me after joining moot court was, on my resume, from a resume perspective, it got my foot indoors. I think the reality of us going to CBE accredited schools is that we are kind of working up an uphill battle compared to everybody else from ABA schools. And I think what helped me get my foot in the door for the interview process was the fact that we were involved in moot court. And what that shows employers is you're not going to do just the bare minimum for whatever position you're trying to apply for. And I think when you apply that in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of like the bigger picture of how things play itself out. Fortunately, at the time, it got my foot into a big firm, which from a CBE accredited standpoint, that's a very rare opportunity to have. But had it not been for my experience in moot court, I don't think that I would have even been considered. Now, from a practice perspective, I'll take the road less traveled. What moot court allowed me to realize self-awareness from that point was I enjoyed being in court. I enjoyed the oral argument process. But for me, I wasn't a huge legal research individual. And that's okay. I know what my strong points are and I know what my weakest points were. And so for me, being able to fine tune my advocacy skills and oral arguments, and then maybe getting some assistance with the legal research side allowed me to kind of fine tune and highlight my strengths. But anyway, that being said, moot court was a great experience. I wouldn't have exchanged it for anything else in the world. including the entire law school experience and UWLA. I can tell you that from working with partners in the big firm and smaller boutique firms, and now working in the government sector, my supervisors and managers have compared me to individuals who graduated from Ivy League schools, from UCLA's, from from the Southwesterns, and they've said, we're surprised that somebody from a smaller school can perform at a higher level than they do. And it's not a matter of tooting anybody else's horn on my own, but it's just simply a matter of we work that much harder, and I think we come with that chip on our shoulder that because we're looked a certain way inaccurately, we show that this is our place in the world. So anyway, congratulations to both of you. Super proud. Professor Glassman, it's good to see you, and some other familiar faces in here. So
thank you. Thanks for joining us. And as we've indicated, our alumni have gone on to varied careers, including, for example, the public defender's office, right? A trial practice office where one gets an extraordinary amount of criminal trial experience early in their career. And on cue, there's Deputy Public Defender Kristen Gozawa, who was a terrific competitor when she was a student and has worked with students since graduating. So Ms. Gozawa, I'm sure you've heard this conversation, and just wondering what you're thinking at this point in terms of reflecting on your experience.
Well, Your Honor, Professor Glassman.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You can use that. It works.
No, I'm sorry. I'm in the mode right now. Someone was talking about PTSD, and I literally just came home from probably, and I'm not even exaggerating, the longest OR argument that I've ever given since I've been a public defender.
But just for those in the audience, that's an argument on a release from custody, right?
Yes. Thank you. I'm sorry. So I had a client today who was in custody, and I've been in front of this particular judge for a little over a year now. I'm the public defender that's assigned to her courtroom, and I probably literally had the longest argument with her for release for a person's own recognizance ever. And it was fine, but talking about moot court and talking about my experience at the National Criminal Procedure Moot Court Competition, which was literally about a decade ago, Professor, it definitely brings up some PTSD. But in any event, where can I start with moot court? So I started appellate ad in the summer of 2012. That's when I had the pleasure of meeting Professor Glassman. And if you want to be a trial attorney, okay, if you want to be in a courtroom every day, and some people don't, which is fine, but if you want the trial experience, if you want to be in front of a judge, making an argument, interacting with clients every day, you have to do the most to take advantage of not only appellate ad, but of the various competitions that UWLA offers. I can't emphasize enough how much that will help you in being a trial lawyer, and how much that will help you be comfortable in appearing in front of different panels of jurors, appearing in front of different judicial officers. It's an experience that you just cannot replicate. You just can't. Even, and it's funny, even the practice runs that we would have during the competitions really help you in terms of the tangible real life experience of being a trial attorney. So again, I just can't emphasize enough how much my experience in moot court, my experience with Professor Glassman especially, really helped me to become, helped me to be in the place where I am now. I can say without any reservation that I have my dream job. I've been a public defender now for about 4 years for the County of Los Angeles, and I 100% have my dream job. I would not be here. I'll tell everyone right now, I'll swear on a stack of Bibles, I would not be here without Professor Glassman and without having had the experience I had in appellate ad. I always knew I wanted to be a public defender. That was reinforced when I went through this course. So take advantage of it and just listen to what Professor Glassman says, because he knows it all.
So thank you, Ms. Ghalehshahi. I do have a couple things to say to close this session out. I thank everybody for taking part. From my standpoint, of course, to see this group is very meaningful to me, a group of people that were about what we claim to be about, right? Which is why the school is there, what kind of work people are capable of doing, the level at which they can do it. But you all are the exemplars of that. So it's very significant to me. Does anybody have any parting thoughts before I just briefly conclude?
Professor Glassman, if I may add, I just want to share that because I'm assuming there's some students that just started this school and they're wondering where they're going to end up when they finish. At the company I'm with, which I'm in-house counsel, it was between me and 4 other people who are all from top schools, Georgetown, USC, UCLA, and I can't remember the other one. And the board ended up voting for me because they said they much rather hire somebody who went through law school 4 years with a full-time job as an executive and was able to pass the bar and make it work than somebody who had gone to law school for full-time and that's all they had to do. So I hope that you guys really understand what that means. And I would like to take the time to thank, President Brown, Dean, you, Professor Glassman, Professor Billington, Professor Zand. Really, without you guys' support, I wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you.
Thank you. And what I wanted to just add in concluding is we've talked and it's appreciated and it's certainly relevant about the role the school plays and hopefully faculty involvement and guidance play. But the common denominator for this group and those that did distinguish themselves is that my role ultimately is a simple one, right? You identify the people that have the ability and the initiative, and then they take it from there. So, so that's really what happened in every one of these instances. It's generally very clear to me, ultimately, who the warriors are, who the players are, right? And who can play the game at the level it needs to be played to do this effectively. And you all demonstrated that. That's why you were chosen, and that's why you excel, and that's why you'll be successful. So again, these are skills that are important to everybody going through the law school experience, but it was no accident that these groups formed as they did, and that's a credit to each one of you. So I thank you for the work that you did, going back a decade in the case of Ms. Ghalehshahi, longer in the case of some people, 4 years for Ms. Trice, Ms. Boyadzhyan, and 2 weeks ago for Ms. Snyder and Ms. Maayah. For everybody, I'm sure for the rest of your lives, when you think back to those experiences, it'll be a vivid, wonderful memory. So thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for the work that you did in school, and continued success to all of you. And with that, I'll say goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.